Supposedly. It's a D. They're wrong. Yeah.
I don't know. You're just like one of the smartest people in this room.
I've been not motivated. You know which word is confusing? Continuously.
Continuously.
That's a.
You know the U.
UOU is like.
Oh no. Wait. Continue. The NUOU.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up. Like, how do I spell that?
Or it looks weird.
It keeps telling me it looks, kind of when you're typing, it's red.
Right.
Is it two L's?
Yeah.
Words that you rarely use.
Yep. It's frustrating.
She says this is more green than yellow. This is yellow.
Green?
She says this is more green than yellow.
Gold dress, black dress.
Okay, it was blue and black. It was blue and black. Don't even get me started.
It is.
This yellow.
It is subjective.
No, and the sneakers were teal and gray.
Oh yeah, that's an old different one.
Noel is green. Dark.
That is green. This is yellow.
There's a hint of green.
There's a hint of green.
It could be
Technically.
it's
not
tint of green. Yeah.
Okay, we'll wait another 40 seconds and then start.
40 more.
What are you doing? You're doing this live streaming so you can see this on
the app. So it'll be on the app, the website.
App?
Yeah.
Oh.
Packin website. And then it'll also put a copy of it on YouTube and Facebook.
Oh.
Yeah. So it'll just be saved. It'll be reserved. Like we can always watch it again. We can. In my way, I'm preparing these lessons so I can use it. I can give people snippets of it or whatever. I can refer them to it. So just take advantage of the platform. And I've done the camera in such a way it's only on the speaker. So other than voices, it's not going to come out.
Oh, but is the PowerPoint going to show? Because
it's not. Yeah, no, it's not. So
it's just going to be whatever you're saying.
Right. So I was thinking, I could do it at a different level where I save the recording and then superimpose the PowerPoint on it. So there's a possibility, but the way I prepared the PowerPoint, you don't need the PowerPoint to learn. So it's by the lecture. So, but we'll see. We're trying to get stuff out. So people want the PowerPoint. We'll see. Okay. Let us. Oh wait, hold on. Microphone on. Yes, it is. Okay. So let us begin our first workshop. Welcome to our Packin English workshops. We'll be doing these once a month. The intent, of course, is to be able to provide information that's relevant, that's helpful to the community. So I love that y'all are here. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the encouragement. But the goal will be to get people from outside, from our jobs, from our friends on the street. Anybody comes in and can benefit from it. So that's the ultimate goal. That's what we're shooting for, that these are socially beneficial. Because ultimately the church should be helping society. We should be here and people should be excited that Packin's here because we'll be helping people. Talking about helping people, we have snacks, we have tea, so go ahead and help yourselves. I encourage you as I'm doing the intro. Intro doesn't matter really, but yeah, go ahead and get some snacks. We have some fruit, we have some goldfish. The teapot is hot, so you can pour some tea in, and there's some tea bags. So go ahead and...
Motivation.
Yes, of course, yeah. So that will be there. So today we're talking about motivation. If you don't know me yet, I am Jonathan. I'm ordained in the church, but I'm also working towards my license. I'm not licensed yet. So I can't call myself a licensed psychologist yet. But I graduated in June with a degree in clinical psychology, and my goal is to share that education with people that will benefit them. So motivation is an interesting one. It's a fickle one. It not only gets talked about just in normal circles, psychologically, but also theologically. We can go back to Paul's famous verse, his frustration in Romans 7. He said, I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do. I do it anyways. So that frustration, I think, speaks for all of us. And it speaks theologically, but it also speaks in our lives. And physically, what can we do? We commit ourselves to a new exercise. We commit ourselves to a new diet. We commit ourselves to some sort of a new pattern in life. And it's better for us. We know that it's going to improve our life. It's going to improve our all aspects of it. However, we just can't stick with it. Why? So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's discuss. So let me give you a quick rundown of what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to give you a quick preface, a very important preface at the beginning. So I'm going to do that right after this slide. I'm going to give you the neurological perspective. So this is going to be kind of how your brain works. And the reason we're touching on the brain is because with that, we'll know psychologically how that plays out. If you don't know how your body works, it's hard to then discuss and to figure out what to do to achieve the benefits that you want to achieve. If you did not know that eating a lot gains you weight, then that's going to be confusing when you try to figure out how to lose weight. Well, if I eat less, I'll lose weight. Yeah, that's how it works. So knowing how your body works is very effective in being able to understand psychologically how it impacts us, and then ultimately let's put it into practice and get some ideas of what we can do. Before I start, I would love to make sure that this is a workshop so we can interact. So any questions before we start? Does this make sense so far? Just the basic perspective that we're going to be going through. Okay? Great. Okay, so quick preface. Everybody has many differences, but every body has similarities. And we have to remember that psychology is based on the idea that we are people and people experience very similar things. And so if we're experiencing something ourselves and we experience a solution that helps us get through a problem, it's more than likely somebody else will experience a very similar response. So that we can learn from each other is ultimately what's happening. However, we're also idiosyncratic. We're very unique. We're unique people. We have a unique upbringing. We have a unique genetic makeup. We have all these things that make us unique. So we have to recognize that not everything you hear on social media or everything you hear here will work for you. So we have to keep that in mind. Sometimes it's not going to work. With that in mind, however, especially the stuff we're going to learn today, just because it doesn't work once doesn't mean you throw it away. Try it again. Work on it. Anyone heard the 21-90 rule? 21-90. Yeah. What's the 90? To develop a life pattern change. 21-90. Oh, 21 to develop a habit. 21 days, yeah. Yeah, it says 33 weeks to develop a habit. 90 days, 3 months to change your life pattern. To make it so that it actually applies to the rest of your life. So if that's the case, just because you do something once or for 1 week, and if it didn't work, doesn't mean you should throw it away immediately. Try it. Try it for a month. To see what it is. The stuff we're going to talk about today, try it for a month. If it works, great. Keep doing it. If it doesn't work, okay, then that's a good amount of time for you to try it and for it to be able to move on. At the same time, we need to keep in mind mental health is relative, and we have to keep it, of course, as a psychologist, I'm going to have to say that. Motivation is one of the symptoms, or in this case, lack of motivation, is one of the symptoms of depression. Major depressive disorder, if you have major depressive disorder, one of your symptoms could be a lack of motivation. Imagine going to the doctor, and you tell the doctor, I have a fever. Fix my fever. And the doctor will want to check you out to see, well, why do you have a fever? So it's one thing to fix the fever. It's another thing to fix the underlying problem that exists, which is causing the fever. So if there's a mental health issue that's creating a lack of motivation in your life, that's the first thing to handle. That's the first thing to focus on, and then you can start to work on the motivation piece. So keep that in mind. If you feel like, wow, motivation, you try all these things, 6 months later, you're like, I tried everything, motivation is not working, maybe check with a psychologist, get an assessment, check with a psychiatrist, maybe medication. These other things can work for helping you before you start working on the motivation. Okay? Important to point that out first, important to keep that in mind. Okay, so let's talk about the neurological aspect. Let's talk about physically what happens in your body. What your body goes through with motivation. This is going to be important because we're going to learn from this to then apply it to our lives and understand how we're going to be able to live out these motivational changes that ideally could help you. So, not going to get into the complications. I have it written down, so if you want to talk about that with me later, you're more than welcome to. But the basics of it, somewhere in your midbrain, and you can see it in this kind of lower region right here. You got the hypothalamus right here working with the amygdala. Right there in the midbrain that you have a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine, neurotransmitter. Let's talk about just neurotransmitter. That's just a fancy word for messenger. It's the messenger of the brain. It contacts the rest of the brain. It tells the brain what needs to happen, and then the brain sends the signal to the rest of your body. So that's what dopamine does. That's what neurotransmitters do. Dopamine, and I'm not going to get into all the other things that dopamine does. One of the main things it does, it rewards you. You feel rewarded for something you did. Now this activates, and you can see all those lines. All that activates, what basically is called the mesolimbic reward pathway. That activates when you do something. You do a behavior, and that behavior feels good. It's going to activate this reward pathway. So now you're going to feel good about what you just did. Your brain is going to send the signal, sends the dopamine out. You're going to feel rewarded. I feel good about what I just did. So therefore, it's going to lead me into, sorry, I just realized which slide I was on. It's going to lead me into feeling good about what's going on. So let me give you a few examples. You take a bite out of that burger. I'm talking about the right burger, the one you've been waiting for. You take a bite, feels good, right? It feels, yeah, there you go. In-N-Out. Majority of people will say that. In-N-Out burger, that first bite, feels so good. Dopamine. That's going to be the dopamine surge that you're going to get. Here's another simple one, interaction with a friend. You interact with a friend and it goes well. It's positive interaction. You feel good about whatever. Dopamine, right? Another one, you finish a test at school. Right? And then you turn it in and you're like, you're final. You're final for the semester. Let's amplify it a little bit. You get your first paycheck. That's a good feeling, right? For me, Thursday mornings, I wake up with a little extra jump in my step, right? I get paid on every other Thursday. All the other days, it's really hard for me to get out of bed, but that Thursday when I can look at my bank account and be like, my 2 weeks of work just got paid. Right, so that's dopamine. That's what that does. It rewards you for what you did. Okay, so keep that in mind. Behavior precedes the dopamine surge. Okay, let's keep on talking about the motivation piece. Now, why does this happen? Well, because you're training your body. Evolutionarily, the description is that we have a reward system in our body because it teaches us how to live life. It teaches us behaviors. We are learning behaviors and we're understanding how to do it. It teaches us, basically the brain is telling you, this is something I want you to do more often. So keep doing it. You're basically teaching yourself how to act, what you're supposed to do. Then we'll talk about what happens when you have too much dopamine. That's the next slide. But for now, just the understanding is that we're learning behaviors. It's teaching us how to do it. So we have to think about this from a different perspective, though. Let's talk about the timing of it. Okay? So let's play a quick game. So imagine with me a time when you did something and somebody rewarded you for it. Just imagine someone rewarded you. It can be as big as something or a little something. You did the behavior, someone gave you something. Did you feel motivated to do that behavior again? More than likely, yes. Okay? Now imagine with me that happened every single day for a long period of time and there's things going on. So now it's turning into a learned behavior, right? Easiest example of this is your salary, when you get paid at work, right? You go to work. Why do you still go to work? Well, I get paid. Some of us really enjoy work, right? We have some intrinsic rewards in there where we feel like work is awesome. I love working. I love what I do, right? The intrinsic behavior. We'll talk about that later too. But for most of us, we're going because of this paycheck that's showing up at our door, in our bank account, in our hand, wherever it shows up every 2 weeks. So let's imagine now you never get rewarded. You're doing that behavior, nothing comes your way. You think you're going to keep doing it?
No paycheck?
No paycheck.
No.
More than likely, no. You're going to be like, I'm going to move on to something else. I'm going to do something else, right? You're going to change your behavior because it's not rewarding you in any way, especially if there's no intrinsic reward. Now imagine a third one. Imagine you're randomly rewarded. Sometimes you get a paycheck. Sometimes you don't. But when you get it, it's a good paycheck. Which one of those three do you think is going to increase your motivation the most to do the behavior? What do you think? And I mean, let the picture be
Random, you don't know when it's coming, so you always have to be on.
right.
The first one is guaranteed.
It's guaranteed. You know it's coming, so you're expecting it. But Yeah, you're a lot more motivated to stick to your behavior if you have no idea that it's showing up. When is it going to show? It is a very effective method. Good job. As a teacher, that's good. And I show you a picture of what? Slot machines. Why do you think they're so addicting? Because I know that jackpot's there. I know if I keep doing it, eventually I might get it. I might win it. So you keep putting it, and you can sit there for hours. Days. There's some people that will sit there for days addicted because what's called intermittent rewards are one of the most captivating ways to motivate somebody. You will keep doing it for a long time if you know this time it's going to come. No, this time it's going to come. Maybe this time it's going to come. Right? So it's a very compelling argument to consider. So first one, dopamine activates with behavior. Second one, dopamine is more effective when it's randomly showing up. Okay? Let's talk about too much dopamine. Okay? Our body rewards us constantly, and I mentioned that with the examples. You take a bite of your burger, you talk with your friend, all these different types of ways that we're feeling rewarded, right? Well, what happens that we've seen is that the dopamine usage, especially if it's gone on for a long period of time, it loses its effectiveness. It becomes less potent. So what ultimately would needed is for more of whatever we're doing to get the same feeling of satisfaction, that same reward system to kick in. So this also impacts us when we're doing something over and over again. So imagine with me again, that favorite burger, In-N-Out, right? You guys said In-N-Out. You have In-N-Out tonight after you leave from here. In-N-Out, feels so good, animal style, whatever it is, right? You feel good about that. Tomorrow morning, you go back to In-N-Out, you have another burger. Feels good. I mean, it's good. 2 days in a row. In-N-Out. Whoa. Then you go for lunch and get In-N-Out. Okay. It's good. Dinner. Again. The next day. Breakfast. Lunch. Suddenly, it's not feeling like your favorite burger place anymore, right? So what happens is that as we do something, that dopamine surge starts. If we keep doing it, especially when there's not enough time in between for our body to almost forget the experience and the feeling of it, the dopamine push that we get is that it gets a really big peak. The second time's going to drop. And this is exaggerated, of course. It's not just this third time it just crashes. But after prolonged use, you're going to get a crash where it turns from your favorite burger to something disgusting. You are sick of it. It goes to the far end. So dopamine usage over time, it'll affect us. This is also what the problem is with addictions. We're talking about burgers. Burgers are not a big deal. You eat a burger, you get full. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You get some fat, cholesterol, whatever like the macros on a burger are. But think about it now from cocaine, heroin, these drugs where you get that initial reward system that shoots up and it feels good at the beginning, even though you had a very small amount because your body's never experienced it before. And then eventually you need to get that same shot of it. You get the same amount, but that dopamine is not as high. Well, in order to get that higher dopamine with substances, you need to have more substances. And that's where you start to lose control. And that's the danger of addictions to substances. So you can think of it from that way. Dopamine can be very negative in that capacity. So something to consider. Okay, so we got 3 lessons from dopamine. So behavior precedes motivation. You have to have the behavior first, and then the dopamine kicks in, right? Random timing is very effective. Really, really works well in a capacity to be able to understand motivation. And then from the final one, we talked about it losing efficiency over time. So we can't rely on dopamine on its own. Dopamine's not enough. You're going to eventually do a behavior that you need to do every day, and it's going to lose dopamine. So I'm going to give you an alternative as an influence, and that's called locus of control. We'll get to a conversation about that in a few slides. Okay? Make sense so far? So that's how your body works. So let's turn that into the psyche. Let's turn that into how we interpret that and how we think about that. Yes?
You're saying more dopamine every single time, is there a max?
It caps out. Yeah.
It counts out.
Yeah. So eventually you're going to just not feel it for whatever you're doing.
You're like numb. You can get
Yes.
numb to it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Cocaine. Think about substances. Yeah. So you get more, and then eventually it's just not doing anything for you. You're doing the same. You're doing a certain amount, but you're not getting that same hit, whatever that feeling is that you're looking for.
So that point, your body is relying on it to survive.
Correct. So that's why substances is a very different thing. Now your body needs it, and you have other symptoms that start showing up when you're not having enough of it. Yeah. So that takes a physical perspective as well. That's why, again, for our behavior, we need other things that influence us. We can't all get addicted to going to the gym like we would getting addicted to getting cocaine, right? It doesn't work the same way. So we need other influences that will build on how we understand it and how we motivate, which is why here's a few ideas that we're going to go through. So here's how you can translate all of this into conversation. So there's something called behavioral activation. Behavioral activation is something used with depression, actually specifically. And the idea behind depression, so of course depression, a lot of times a person feels so depressed, they don't do stuff. So one of the simple interventions that we use in therapy is go do stuff. Literally, it just boils down to that simple. Go do something. Because when you do something, it affects your mood. And you can think about time when you were not interested in going out or you didn't want to do something and a friend dragged you along and you went and did it and you're like, oh, wow, okay, I feel a little better. Like I feel like things change. So that mentality is very much effective. That's tied to what behavioral activation is. So let's tie that to motivation. When you are not in the mood, when you don't feel like there's something that you want to do, if motivation is something that triggers in your body, when you do that behavior, it sounds like the first step to getting motivated is actually to do whatever you're trying to get motivated to do. So it's a catch-22 there. It's like you want to work out? Go work out. Because it's going to increase your motivation. Because that's the way motivation works in your body. The dopamine does not get triggered by you thinking about working out. You have to start doing it. Oh, maybe there could be some things. There could be some things. But the way the dopamine shot works is that you have to activate it in a way that's working in that capacity. Do the behavior. Do the behavior, and then it's going to start doing it. Think about brushing your teeth. Who in here loves brushing your teeth? Love it.
Now I do.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay. So you wake up, and the first thought in your mind, I can hardly wait to get out of bed so I can brush my teeth. Okay, good. Perfect, good.
Or at night.
The night one. So you're going through the day you're just waiting for that crest to brush against your...
Post 8 p.m.
8 p.m., okay. So it sounds like you're looking for the bedtime ritual. Yeah, okay. So think of it this way. Let's imagine, some of you that apparently love it overly, let's imagine you're one of the normal people that doesn't necessarily love brushing your teeth, but you have nothing against it. It's not something, right? You're neutral. It's brushing your teeth. It's something I have to do, part of my bedtime ritual, part of my morning ritual, whatever it is. So imagine you start brushing your teeth. And then halfway through, you're not motivated to brush your teeth anymore, so you stop. You did the top half. I'm done. I don't want to brush my teeth anymore. You spit it out, you put it away. No, that doesn't really happen. When you start doing the action, when you start doing the behavior, you're more than likely going to finish. Right? You're more than likely, you touch the top, just do the bottom one too, and just be done, and then you're done. Maybe you do it a little faster, but whatever it is, but the idea there is that when you start the behavior, the motivation kicks in. Even though you don't like doing something, you're going to finish it. You're going to complete it all the way. And that's kind of the idea that you get with this behavior activation piece. Behavioral activation is a therapeutic intervention. It's something separate. But keep that in mind when you're thinking about motivation. You've got to do some sort of behavior to be able to get that motivation to kick in. Make sense? See how that works? So the thoughts that we should have in this case, the psychological perspective to take from this is, what behavior can get me to get motivated? What's simple enough that I can do? And we'll talk about that later on with some examples that we'll give. Okay? Next one. We talked about Vegas, right? How do we randomize this experience? What do we experience? What were we going through? Well, the most effective reward system that we've talked about is an intermittent reward schedule. That is the key to be able to get someone really motivated to do what they do. My kid's right here. I can assure you, when at the beginning, when we were trying to get her to potty, right, we would tell her that, okay, look, you're going to be going to the bathroom. When you go to the bathroom, in the potty, you get a chocolate. Trust me, she's going to be doing it. She loves it. And then a few weeks go by, we're not going to give her chocolate every time she goes to the potty. It's ridiculous. So you start to do it intermittent. She's still going to the potty. Trust me. She's going to really want, can I get a chocolate now? Like, no, not this time. Can I get a chocolate now? And then sometimes they're like, here you go, chocolate. It's like, and that's going to feel really good. That motivation is the way that you teach. So an intermittent reward schedule is one of the keys to being able to teach someone, especially yourself, that I want to continue doing whatever action it is. Now, there's a negative way this gets used. So we talked about the studies on dopamine. There's some studies out there that an intermittent reward schedule close to doubles and triples the amount of dopamine that's going through your bloodstream when you're doing the same action as you would for a scheduled reward system. So a lot of dopamine. That means you're going to feel really good when that intermittent reward comes in, and you're going to keep wanting to do it. It works on the negative side too. So Dutton and colleagues had a study about traumatic bonding. Traumatic bonding is a study about kids who go through trauma as children, and we see that they are very attached to a caretaker who intermittently fluctuates between loving them intensely and punishing them physically, and to the point of harming them. Like, they're not doing just for punishment, like just spanking. We're not talking about that. We're talking about real trauma. So the kid is still going to be super attached to that caretaker because they don't know when that love is coming. And they're going to keep doing whatever they can try to do to get that love. So it works in multiple ways. It works in the negative way and the positive way. Humans learn by intermittent reward systems. It's a very effective way to be able to teach them what to learn from that. So psychologically, we have to keep that in mind. Randomness manipulates your dopamine. It's a very effective way to get that shot and a very effective way to get an increased shot. And then finally, that locus of control. So I talked about that. Lots of dopamine lowers its effectiveness. You can't rely on that for the rest of your life. If you're trying to change your diet and eat a certain way because you want to get to a healthier weight, you can't rely on dopamine to get that going every single time. So eventually you need to change it. Locus of control, what it talks about is that it's your ability to recognize how responsible you are for whatever results you're trying to get. So if I'm knowing that I'm the one responsible for whatever it is I'm trying to do, then I can achieve that. And you'll be more motivated to be able to get that. So this is a picture of a study. I don't know where it was. This is a picture of a study by Jane Elliott in 1968. So 1968, if you know the date, that's when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Right? Civil rights movement was in a huge push. So Jane Elliott did a study with her fourth graders. I want to say it's fourth graders. I have to double check. She did a study with fourth graders to kind of show how racism is a learned trait. Okay, so really quickly, she divided her class into two groups: whoever had brown eyes and whoever had blue eyes. Whoever had brown eyes got all these benefits. They would go to recess early. They would get refills during lunch. They would be able to drink from the water fountain. The blue-eyed kids had to wear a bandana on their arm so everyone knew that they had blue eyes. They would go to recess later and come in earlier. They had to use a cup at the water fountain. They were being shunned from certain things that the brown-eyed kids were doing. They did this I think they did it for a couple days, and then they switched. So then the brown-eyed kids had the bandana, and they were getting prevented from all the stuff, and the blue-eyed kids had it. But the fascinating thing that ties us to our locus of control is the kids also did academic testing. She would sit with them and test them on their spelling, math, reading, certain things that she can quantify, right? The kids with the brown eyes, the first group that were privileged, right? They did very well on all their testing, right? The next time that they did the testing and they had the bandana, dropped. Why? And the teacher asked them, like, what happened? You just did these really well. What changed? And they're like, the bandana. They had no difference in their brain power, but their mind went to, I am not smart enough. I am not good enough. I am not capable enough because I've been told I'm not as good as other people. The mentality of locus of control is that when you find yourself responsible for the work that you do and the results that you're getting, you will be committed, you will be motivated to be able to get that done. And that shows in a lot of different ways. In and of itself is a lesson right there. But the idea of locus of control being an effective motivator is powerful. And it allows us to be able to achieve the things that we want to get. One thing to add to this, locus of control is developed. A lot of people tie it to personality. You can kind of think of those kids or those people like, oh, that person has a go-getter attitude. Yeah, there's personality types that definitely increase motivation for certain things. But locus of control is developed. It's something that we build. So we'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about putting it all into practice. Any questions first before we kind of lay that out, of just kind of give a practical way to look at all this. Good? Okay, so let's put it into practice. Anyone seen What About Bob? Okay, so if you haven't, you need to watch it. If you're a therapist and you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. Like, you absolutely have to. So let me give you the 5-minute rule. So that's one of the things that I usually give patients, clients. The 5-minute rule is a very simple rule. If there's something that you really want to do, it's really hard for you to do, you can't get it done, it's overwhelming, do it for only 5 minutes. Set your timer, put it right there, 5 minutes. I use sit and do it. 5 minutes isn't too long. 5 minutes is not overwhelming. You can do something for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, 300 seconds. It's not that bad. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Do it. The timer rings. Stop. Don't do it anymore. Right? What will usually happen? Remember the brushing the teeth. I mean, I've only done it for 5 minutes. Okay, I can do it for a little bit longer. Maybe you reset the timer and do another 5 minutes. Great. Oh man, that is golden. That's breakthrough right there. Do that extra 5 minutes. The key is when you just turn it off completely and you just keep going. That's when you know you've gotten to a place where, okay, now it's working properly. So the 5-minute rule, very simple. I can't take credit for this. My professor is the one that taught it. Simpson, he'll kill people if we, yeah. So it's really helpful to be able to get yourself going in whatever capacity. If there's anything you can do, just do it for only 5 minutes, limit yourself, and then you can kind of go from there, whatever it feels like. Yeah, you can even do 1 minute, depending on the activity. Yeah, 1 minute, 30 seconds. Well, I mean, there's lots of ways to be, if it's an exercise, one rep, just do one. Like, well, I did one, I can do a few more. Like, yeah, you definitely, one set. You know, like you can, lots of ways that you can use the 5-minute rule.
We have a professor that would say when you were like seriously depressed clients that couldn't exercise, he would tell them, don't go to the gym, just drive to the gym.
Yeah.
Stare at it for 10 seconds.
Yes.
And then go home. Like, what do you mean? Of course he goes. Like, no, I don't want you to do that.
Yep.
And then they get there and they realize how ridiculous it is.
Right, yeah. Especially if it's further, it's like not a very easy one. If you have to walk to the gym, like there's like ways that you can really push that. But yeah, just being able to get that initial movement is what gets the motivation. That's how dopamine starts. Do some sort of a behavior. Do it for a short amount of time. The other one I do with my little kiddos, this is like my 6-year-olds to like 11. 3, 2, 1, take off. And this really is a way to just like, it kind of, you can do it mentally, but just, I'm going to count down. When I hit 0, I'm going to just go do whatever it is I need to do and just get going and move it. Now, there's a lot of parents that obviously have maybe used this in a negative way, you know. I'm going to count to 3, and if you're not up, it's like 3, 2, 1. That's true. That's very different. So we're going the opposite direction. Yes, definitely. But it's an effective way to be able to get you moving. Let's get that step going. Let me try to do something, and then it can lead to being able to get one of the most common ways. I've used this. Look, kids that are depressed, they can't get out of bed. Right? I have one client right now I can think of that just can't get out of bed, depressed, goes about 3 hours late to school every day. Just can't get up. 3, 2, 1, take off. 3, 2, 1, out of bed. Okay, here we go, and then just use that momentum. And go do whatever it is. You're out of bed. You have to go wash your face now. I mean, there's nothing else you can do. You're not going to go back to bed. Keep going. So there's some value in that. The other one, which is from the movie, Baby Steps. If you know the Baby Steps, if you know the movie, you know the thing. But the idea here, take a smaller action, and it's very similar to the 5-minute rule. Take a smaller action that can be completed, right? And just do that. Just do that small, but it's something that's fully encased. You can do it on your own. You can complete it. And that's going to get you the feeling of completion. That's going to get you that activation that you need so that then you can do that bigger thing, that harder thing. So you gave the example of the driving to the gym. If going to exercise is hard for you, just drive to the gym and then come back. Just do that. Can you drive to the gym? Yeah, sure. You go there and now you're going to be able to do it. Using that same idea. Can you just change into your gym clothes? Just change. Go from your work clothes to your gym clothes. What's it going to feel like? Well, now you're dressed up. I mean, you want to get sweaty somehow. Go for a walk, like whatever it is. Do a smaller thing. Think of a smaller behavior that you can do. You can decide that you want to take care of, and that can be able to lead you towards whatever else. Because whatever gets that reward pathway activated is a key. So be able to get that going is a possible way to be able to start that process. We talked about the randomness, right? This one we kind of bring in accountability. Externalizing that accountability. It's hard to do it for yourself, but if you can get someone from outside that's pushing you, especially if they know how intermittent reward system works. That's a really effective way to be able to teach you. If they don't know, you teach a friend. Hey, I want you to reward me every once in a while. Do not tell me when you're going to do it. Once I do this, flip a coin. And if it works out, you're doing it, and reward me accordingly. Some sort of way that you can externalize that reward system and they can teach you and they be able to guide that reward pathway that you want to get. The way that I do it, I don't know, this is a D20. I don't know if you guys know, anyone knows Dungeons and Dragons, D&D. So that's a D20. That's a 20-sided dice. Okay, that's 20 options that you have on there. Assign 2 of the options to be a reward, and the other 18 to not be a reward. When you complete something, roll that dice. You can go on Google and type in D20, and you can just do it online if you don't have one. And just have some sort of reward system that you can do for yourself. You get a 20, oh man, that's going to feel good for whatever capacity that you have, whatever behavior you do, you get that 20, feels good. You get a 19, maybe next time. And you got to find the next time because you want to get those dice rolls in. So some sort of a way to randomize it in that reward system that you can get excited about getting it completed. Locus of control. Let's talk about that a little bit. I have an assessment. Does everyone have a pen? I should have grabbed pens. I just thought of that right now.
I have one.
Great. Okay.
I can go get some.
Who needs a pen? Let me say that. You need a pen. Yeah, a bunch. Oh, fantastic. So do this real quick. It's only 18 questions. It's not that... Like a melon onion. You have one? Thank you so much. Oh, perfect. Appropriate. Unis. Oh, she already had it. So this is a locus of control scale that's used in medical setting. Say what?
Do I get chocolate if I do it?
Oh, maybe.
Do I get rewarded?
Maybe. You don't know. You don't know. So this is a locus of control test for inspes urderen, wherever responsibility comes from. Who's responsible? Yeah, source of responsibility. Yeah. Yeah, so, and this one's more for medical. So the idea here is that it's going to be a lot of health-related questions, but you should get an indicator of how you view other things as well. When you go through it and you start to divide it up, you'll kind of get an idea. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Don't feel obligated. The idea here is that it kind of shows where we think that our responsibilities come from, and this could be expanded into different facets of our life. And that's kind of the idea behind this, because locus of control is more of a shift. You can't really have behavior changes. You can't decide you're going to do a practice and that's going to shift your locus of control. You just have to think differently, and that's kind of what it boils down to. So let me give you a couple minutes to do that. You don't have to.
No, I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Same. You know those like times table tests we did in the elementary school?
Yep.
This is nothing like that.
No,
I guess the stress of it.
Because imagine he's like, okay, everyone watch President.
Oh, okay.
I have that stress in my parent.
I've got that. That's an interesting thing to say.
So once you get to the bottom, you'll see there's 3 different ways. You just add up the 3 different categories, and I'll give you an indication of... Sorry. reveal something that should hopefully help after. Mama, does she have her own phone? Is it her own phone? Oh, telephone chuni. Oh, never mind. Or is that telephone gonna go?
Wait, so
The numbers on the side will are the questions that you add up. Yep. And it can range anywhere from 6 to 36. The higher or out more hold on, I forgot. I just confused myself.
I would assume the higher,
more internalized. Yeah. More internalized locus of control. Yeah.
can you explain how to
Yeah.
add these all up?
Not all of them.
Doing here?
So here it tells you the questions. So add up 1,
You
6,
add
8,
these questions.
whatever these guys. So number 1 you got a 5.
You add those.
Number 6 you got a 6, so that'll be 11. Yeah. So you add up these numbers to that one. Yeah. Wait, hold on a second.
assuming there isn't a single variable, there isn't a single metric.
Correct. No. So that's what's ironic. Locus of control gets tied to personality a lot, like I said earlier. So, and that's yes and no. There is some of it, but it's not fully. You get fruit.
So whichever one you have the most, that means that is your personality.
So-
or your local controller.
So here, let me explain it this way. Locus of control should not be extreme. You shouldn't be fully on one side, everything is internal, or everything is external. A healthy balance, because yes, there are some things that are outside of our control. So we recognize that. So what this does is it shows you how much do you think that. For example, chance is something. Sometimes there's a freak accident. Yeah, so how much of it? If you think everything that harms you is by chance, if your chance is at 36, it's a little high at that point. Not everything is by chance. There are certain things that you are in control of. So somewhere in the middle is what you want for all of these. That's the goal that what you want to see.
The only time where the neutral zone is a good.
Yes, yeah. Somewhere in the middle is healthier with locus. For certain things, again, if you're thinking that, like the first question, if I get sick, it is my own behavior. Never. Nope, never. My behavior has nothing to do, well, nothing has a problem. But if you do the opposite, yes, it has everything to do with my behavior. Well, no, there's certain things you can do and it just doesn't work out. So, so yeah, so you want somewhere in the middle.
Not in the middle, that's okay too.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So the middle is very flexible. The thing to think about is if you're on the extremes, why are you on the extremes? And consider that. So locus of control pays attention to that. Which one?
So 18 is like the middle.
Yeah, it's around 8. No, I think like 26 to 36.
But it goes from 6.
Oh, 6.
Oh, 6.
Yeah, I think it's like 20 something.
21.
No, not the other way. 21? Yeah, I think like 21. 21, 24, somewhere there. Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's a range. So you don't have to be exactly there. Somewhere in there, somewhere in the middle-ish You're anywhere between 18 to 28. That's a.
What does the powerful other?
How responsible am I for someone else's behavior, and especially a powerful, a doctor. If I go to the doctor, they'll cure me. Not really. There you go. Doctor said no. Again, that shouldn't be too high. Yeah, healthy balance somewhere in the middle. No, going to a doctor is not going to make everything vanish, but a doctor can help. So you should not go to a doctor. So again, that somewhere in the middle. Yeah, make sense? So how do you shift that? Well, that's hard, but let me give a couple tips. Language. So notice some of the language I used. Always, never. This kind of language, this kind of talking is what really shifts our understanding. I always get affected by this. Oh, well, do you? What's the other one I said? I never get them to listen to me. Their fault, right? No, I mean, maybe there's sometimes. So using extremes is oftentimes a very effective way to kind of shift responsibility off of yourself. If you're a little more accurate, it can help in a lot of that language. So paying attention to your language is good. And talking about paying attention, plant failures are actually a very effective way to be able to increase your locus of internalized locus of control. Now, I'm not saying plan to fail. It's a very different situation. But recognize that when you do something, there's a chance that you're not going to succeed. A really effective way to do this, to practice this, learn something that requires a skill that you have not picked up yet. I'm going to give you an example of myself. I am learning cooking. So I baked cookies, and they came out charred. What can I do? This oven stinks. Something's wrong with your recipe, right? Right? I can shift that responsibility off of myself instead of realistically saying, maybe I did the recipe wrong.
It also could be the oven.
So that's why. So let me give my example all the way through. First time I cooked the cookies, they came out black. Second time I cooked the cookies, they were better, but then half of it was burnt. And I was like, I'm cooking the right amount of time. It's not working. The third time I made cornbread, and I was like, this time Garnia was in the house. I'm like, Garnia, look! Like, I showed her, I did it for this amount of time. Look at this side, look at this side. She's like, halfway through flip the pan. Oh, okay. Now it makes sense. So again, don't shift that responsibility off of yourself. Learn that maybe it's something I can learn, right? Practice a skill that requires you to develop something, especially something outside of yourself that's hard, because you can activate it by failing. Failing is a very effective learning tool. There was a, oh.
Is that another analogy for the narcissism? Like it's
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a,
rather than mine.
yes, of course. Yeah, that's a huge one. Yeah, it's very, very much so. Be cautious about that one. Yeah.
I would like to point out you make the best hot and sour soup I've ever
Ah, see, I learned that one. Yeah, I learned that one. Yeah. I stirred the pot. I did it correctly. I stirred all the. Yes, I did it. So I appreciate that compliment. Yes. So that one I got good. I got good with that one at least. There was a longitudinal study. One thing, and we'll end with this. There was a longitudinal study on resilience. So they tested the students that were graduating from top end, like Ivy League colleges, and they noticed a pattern. The students that had straight A's entire time, they had never been rejected from anything. Right? They had, for the most part, it was a smooth life. Everything was going well. Had less resilience than the students that had the poor grades, that were rejected from school and had to apply multiple times, that maybe had failed in certain parts of their life and needed to overcome it or didn't go that path. Resilience builds when we experience failure. When we fall, we experience what it's like to fall and how to avoid that next time. So the idea of failure is very effective, especially in then shifting that focus and making it more internalized. It is up to me. It is my responsibility. I can do whatever I'm trying to do. It is up to me whatever I want to get done. So then I want to try to do that. And one last thing, let me just quickly touch on self-talk. It doesn't work for everybody, but it really works for some people. So don't lose. There you go. Yeah. So don't lose sight of it. If you're one of the people so let me give some tips on how to try it. So again, so it's very useful for some. Put your thoughts into words. saying it is different than thinking it. When you say it out loud, you now have a different medium of which you've interpreted it, your ears. So you being able to hear it is different. You being able to write it down is a different medium. Now your hand tactile, you're experiencing that. Your eyes are seeing it. So putting it outside of your thoughts is an effective way to be able to activate whatever it is that you're trying to get. I love this is the first picture I thought, like, hang in there, like, telling yourself to hang in there is very different than just having a poster of a kitty in your house. Yes, this could remind you, but then verbally confirming that is a different aspect that can help for some people. And then also you can do it in such a way that you're now looking at personal characteristics. One of the practices that I do with some of my clients is I have them walk through a centering practice. There's a centering practice where you think about things that are going around you. You're naming them. You're naming 3 things that you hear, 4 things that you can touch. And one of the things, or 2, whatever it is, the order I go. And the last one I always end with, number 1 is say something positive about yourself. What do you like about yourself? And a lot of times that's really hard for certain people, especially to verbalize it to someone that's outside. But when you do it to yourself, when you confirm it to yourself, wow, I am capable. I am committed to whatever it is I'm doing. I am pretty strong at whatever exercise, let's say. Confirm that. Verbalize it. Say it out loud. Get it into the ether so that it becomes reality for you. Okay? So self-talk does work. It just needs to land with the right person. It doesn't work with everybody. So quick recap, and then we have a few minutes for questions. Motivation follows behaviors. That's physically how it works. Physically, your body activates as you do the behavior. That's when dopamine shoots into your system. So you got to do the behavior for the motivation to come. Intermittent rewards are the best way to maximize dopamine usage, so maximizing motivation. Intrinsic responsibility is another effective way to be able to improve motivation. And this becomes very relevant when dopamine is no longer doing what it's supposed to be able to do. And sometimes you just need to convince yourself. Say it out loud. Convince yourself that you're capable of doing whatever it is you're doing, and you'll be surprised how quickly those thoughts will turn into words. Those words will turn into reality. So that's kind of the goal of what we're trying to get done. Any questions? There you go. Yes. There you go. That's the idea. Good.
Good job, Jonathan.
Thank you. Of course. My pleasure. My pleasure. So, I gave you fruit. We have fruit. We have tea. Yes. Yes. Yeah. There you go. So good. Thank you all. If anything comes up, let me know. If you want to talk about this further, let me know. But look forward to our next workshop Packin will be holding. It'll be on February 24, 9, 6, 3. 16, 23, yeah. February 23 will be on Heart Health by Dr. Alec Khurlopyan. So looking forward to that. So yeah, that'll be end of February. I mean, that's for a few of them. Vivian is scheduled for March. Yes. Because March is what? March is Nutrition Month? National Nutrition Month. So we'll be talking about nutrition in March. We have 3 months only planned. I don't have any more. Sorry.
I've been wanting to learn how to knit lately.
Aha. You'll be